I hate to break it to you. There is no such thing as certainty. There is no such thing as 100% proof. It does not exist. There's no such thing. Now, and I'm talking about not with God. There's no such thing as 100% proof or certainty in normal life. There's no such thing as 100% certainty in science itself, because that's the one, right? Science shows us 100% proof. There is no such thing as 100% proof in science. Nothing. It does not exist. You talk to a real scientist and they will tell you that. I mean, I remember reading like several years ago where scientists were doing that experiment with the Large Hadron Collider. Was it that in Switzerland or something? And they were taking these little particles and they were spinning them in this little magnetic thing to get them up to almost the speed of light, and then smashing those particles into other particles. And then they were breaking apart into smaller fundamental particles of the universe to try to see what is the smallest stuff the universe is made out of. Well, they had a theory that there was this little particle called the Higgs particle. And that was one of their theories. And so scientists were like, oh, let's see if it's true, because that would, all of the math equations and all that stuff, right? They're spinning these things around, and they built this Large Hadron Collider. It's incredible. You should see it online. It's so cool. They're smashing these particles together. And then when they did, because the particle is so small, they couldn't observe it directly because it's too small. But they could observe the attributes around it. Like they could measure other things around it. And so scientists came out finally. They said, we think we have discovered the Higgs particle. And so, but what they had to do is they had to give that to the rest of the scientific community, and others had to recreate those experiments. And they had to do it over and over and over again. How many times you do this experiment and get the same result do you finally say this particle exists? And they had to do it over and over again. Let me ask you that. How many times do you do that experiment? And we do the experiment, we smash them together, we get these results, and then we can finally say the Higgs particle exists. How many times do you do that experiment before you say, we know it exists? How many times? Do you do it 10 times? What happens if you do it 11 times and it doesn't work? Okay, we do it 100 times? What happens if you do it 101 times and you get different results? Do you do it 1,000 times? Do you do it 1,000,000 times? Do you do it 1,000,000,000,000 times? How many times can we do it? Right? See, in science, they do not have 100% certainty about anything because it doesn't exist. They have degrees of confidence. And I remember reading the article where I learned about 5 sigma. They said we have 5 sigma level of confidence that the Higgs particle exists. It's how they measure. We've done the experiment 1,000 times. That's what they decided. 1,000 times, that's enough. So we believe the particle exists. Because there's no such thing as 100% proof. Well, gravity exists, okay? If you jump off a building, you fall. If you jump off a building 10 times, you fall. If you jump off a building 100 times, you fall. If you jump off a building 1,000,000,000,000 times, what happens if 1,000,000,001 turns out you go up? You don't know. And you can be like, well, I'm certain I had eggs and bacon this morning for breakfast. No, you don't. You don't know that. You're not certain of that. You're not certain of that. You're trusting your memory of that. You're trusting your memory. You could have had pancakes this morning, and on your way to church, aliens changed your memory. You can't. Prove to me that you are not a jar plugged into a computer simulation right now. You can't. It's amazing when philosophers looked at this, and when the scientific theory was coming out in Europe, and scientists were discovering this, they're like, actually, there's no such thing as 100% certainty of anything. And when philosophers were looking at that, one of my famous philosophers, René Descartes, he's famous for saying, I think, therefore I am. He's like, that's all I know. I think, therefore I exist. Anything outside of that, I don't know with 100% certainty. Everything requires trust. Everything. You cannot function in life without trust. You can't. Will you get on an airplane? You don't know that you're going to land safely. You don't know. You're going to put your family on that airplane? You don't know. You are trusting that pilot to fly well, to do a good job. You know, there's been several instances of pilots intentionally crashing the plane. You know that's happened? You put your family on that plane, you are trusting your life to that pilot. You are trusting the engineering of that plane. You're trusting the engines. You're trusting the maintenance guys. You're trusting the air traffic controller. You know the air traffic controller, he tells the pilots what to do, and they just do it. They don't know what the other planes are in the air. He tells them to go to this altitude, and they go to that altitude. You're trusting that air traffic. You're putting a lot of trust just to fly in an airplane. You know, every time you get in a car, if you're sitting in the passenger seat, you are trusting the driver. And not only are you trusting that driver, you're trusting every single driver around you. You're trusting your tires. You're trusting the condition of the road. You're trusting what's going to be around that corner. I've seen dash cam videos of just someone driving around, and then out of a bush, like a truck just appeared and crashed into their car. It's like, man, I didn't see that coming. You can't function in life without trust. You can't have a marriage without trust. You can't. If you were to try to control your spouse and to make them be faithful to you, you will kill your marriage. You cannot have a marriage without trust. And when trust is broken, you have to do the hard work of rebuilding it. Because you can't have a marriage without trust. And you cannot have faith without trust. You can't. At the center of faith is trust. At the center of everything we talk about in the Bible, everything we talk about at church, it's trust.